Ron, it's nice to talk to you again.
Likewise. How are you, Greta?
Good. In the Heart of the Sea. I got to tell you, I loved the movie. I absolutely loved it. But I got so many questions. First of all, how did you film those storm scenes?
Well, the storm scenes and other really dangerous, intense action scenes, of which there are quite a few, those had to be done on a tank. And we did it in England, an exterior tank in Leavesden, where the ship was on a mechanical rig that would throw the guys around, and we could dump water on them and do all kinds of horrible things. It was cold, it was nasty, but we did shoot a big portion of the movie out in the ocean. So anything that wasn't too dangerous to be done out there, we did in the Canary Islands out at sea.
I can tell you, watching it as a viewer, I felt like I was on the boat, and I felt terrified, but not terrified too much that I want to keep watching.
Well, I did hope that it was a movie that that a broad audience could see. It's not. I wouldn't say it's necessarily for little kids, but it's PG-13, and as we've had our test screenings, it's one of those movies where different people get different things out of it, and my hope is that people go and enjoy it, and have a nice movie experience, and then actually have something to talk about on the way home.
All right. Well, now I want to get to the movie because the viewers haven't seen it. I just had to ask that quick question. All right. In the Heart of the Sea, I mean, I know the origin of it, but tell the viewers, what the movie's about.
Well, it's the event that inspired Herman Melville to write Moby Dick. I had no idea that mythic character was based on a real event. So this is not, a remake of Moby Dick, but it's fascinating to know that it's based on real events. And so it's kind of a cousin to me to Apollo 13. This whale rammed this ship. These were whalers. They were out 800 miles past the Galapagos, hunting, and they were rammed by a bull whale that sank the ship, and they had to abandon, and it became this intense survival experience, very emotional. So look, for me, the movie is a sort of a combination of big screen, action events, which were fun to stage and are interesting to watch, and then this sort of heroic, emotional struggle to survive, a little like Apollo 13, as the men are sort of tested in this extraordinary way and demonstrating sort of what they're made of as they fight to get home.
Well, what's so interesting about the Herman Melville aspect to it is that when Herman Melville wrote Moby Dick, it was a flop. It has now become a huge success, and frankly, I like the fact that you've made this movie because people don't read that much, but at least they're going to know the story by going to this movie.
Well, they're going to learn something about the origins of the Moby Dick story. If they really want to know the Moby Dick story, they still have to go read it or check out John Huston's movie. It's a classic, but it's a very different story. This is based on another book, Nathaniel Philbrick's historical telling of the events of the Essex, which are stunning, remarkable in their own right. And I felt like that movie technology had reached a point where I could stage this movie and make it a totally immersive experience for audiences. Let authenticity really be the watchword and transport audiences to another time. And I think it surprised me when I read the script how relatable so much of it is. It's almost as though you realize that things haven't changed as much as you think they have.
All right, when you picked up the script, did you know this is a fantastic movie? Did you know that just reading it?
Well, I knew it was an unbelievably ambitious movie. It's probably the most challenging movie that I've made. But Chris Hemsworth brought it to me, and we'd had a great experience working together on the Formula One racing movie Rush. And I just had so much respect for him. And when I read about the real Owen Chase, the man he'd be playing, I felt like he was born to play that role. I just felt like, it's different. It's not a copycat kind of a movie. There's a picture of Chris. They all had to sacrifice, went on these unbelievably restrictive diets, carefully watched my nutritionist and so forth. But nonetheless, they paid this price to try to capture the authenticity and the heart and the integrity of the lives that the men that they were playing had lived.
And we should explain by that picture is he lost about 33 or 34 pounds on that picture, and that he was the second in command on the Essex, the whaling ship. That went down. They ended up in other boats, and they didn't have any food. And so you watch this. You basically watch them not eat for for weeks. I don't know how long in the movie, but it's extraordinary. And I can't imagine they actually lost this weight. It was I would expect that would be particularly difficult.
Well, we had trainers. It was a group. And, before the movie ever began, I established this regimen with the trainers, with the nutritionists, with the doctors, and Chris, Ben Walker, Cillian Murphy, the lead actors on the ship, really led the whole cast on this kind of commitment, and it was inspiring. I'll tell you. I mean, I'll never forget how much of themselves they put into this movie. Again, they wanted to respect the memory of the men who they were playing and transport audiences in a very cool way to this adventure.
Where the whales? I must admit, in the beginning, I was sort of team whales when they first showed up and they were being hunted. But that's because I love animals. Yeah. But after I saw the destruction, and I mean, it was fierce when the whales descended upon them, slapping the water and tearing them apart, essentially.
Well, all the everything that we created with the whale, and the whale is, those are CGI creatures. I wouldn't have made this movie if I had not seen the latest Planet of the Apes movies or Life of Pi, and seen that technology had now made it possible for me to create a whale that was as much a vital, living, breathing factor and character in the movie as any of the actors. But it's not really a good guy, bad guy movie. It's a true story. True stories are usually a little more complicated than that. But it's a confrontation. So it's a classic man versus nature versus man story. But it's also a story of transformation and discovery for the characters. When you're faced with this kind of shocking, extraordinary challenge, of course it's going to redefine you as a person, and that's where a lot of the human drama and the brotherhood of the story comes into play. Spirituality and reality played a huge role in sort of holding them together for the 90 days that they were adrift.
What I appreciated about how you did this movie is that there was one gruesome aspect, the cannibalism, but you didn't put that on the screen. No. It's like you very carefully did that, and I thought in a wonderful way, so that families can bring their children and everyone can enjoy the movie. You knew what was going on, but I love the way that you did it. You didn't shove it down our throat. They didn't push it at us.
Well, thank you. Again, this is so much about performance. And I didn't want that to be overwhelmed by, the sort of some sort of graphic, exploitive approach to this. And yes, I did want to keep it in the PG-13 realm because I do feel like it's a story that that I'd like younger people to see. I think families to see together. And I think different people, as I said earlier in the interview, can be entertained in different ways, learn in different ways, and experience the movie, hopefully on a big screen. It's kind of one of those, I hope people go for an outing and see it under great conditions, because that's the best way to experience the movie.
Well, I think they're going to feel like they were on the boat in those horrible, wicked storms with those with the whales. So I agree. They should be on the big screen, by all means. That would be the best way to see it. When I watched this, I thought, boy, do I have an easy job.
Hey, all of us felt that. And when I talked to the actors, and I would say, look, I know this is what we talked about going into the production, but you're living up to this challenge. It's not a matter of just the weight loss. It's also being in these tough conditions, trying to, get these emotionally raw, personal ideas on camera. I'd say I respect it, and I'm sorry it's such a struggle. And they to a man, they would say, hey, it's a fraction of what the real person that I was playing went through, and it's a great story. So they just wanted to fulfill the possibilities of what they thought was a really rare opportunity, and it's why I wanted to do it, because I think it's a very unusual, fresh, kind of entertaining experience.
How did you make it really look like Nantucket? I know Nantucket a bit, and some of those scenes, like when he went off to sea, when they went off on this whaling ship, and when they came back, I was looking very carefully at the screen, and I could have sworn you had it back in the mid 1800s in Nantucket. It looked like the physical property. It looked just like it.
Well, their photography began in the 1850s, and we began looking at that and using that as a reference, but there were also lots of drawings. Nantucket, well, that was the center of the oil industry. That was think of this. It was the center of the energy industry. Where is that today? Well, in the Middle East. But I mean, Nantucket had that kind of power and that sort of importance. It was a cross section of the world, and culturally, it's kind of amazing when you look at sort of where they were, the intersection of cultures, languages, races intermingling in a way that they just didn't in the United States or anywhere else in the world at that time. But therefore, there was a lot written about it. And there were a lot of drawings and etchings, not only of Nantucket that we use as reference, but also of whaling, which, yes, was a very brutal undertaking, but it also was the energy industry. And and it was this sort of dilemma, right? Because on the one hand, yes, it's brutally difficult, it's terrifying, it's dangerous to go out there hunting these whales in this way. Morally, even then, people would write about that little conflict that they would feel. But this whale oil was lighting the streets of cities like Paris and London, Philadelphia and New York, and crime rates were dropping because this kind of whale oil could burn all night long in a way that they'd never been able to light the streets before. There were all kinds of advances being made as a result of this, but it was before oil was drilled from the ground. And so, again, things haven't changed so much. We all need power. We rely upon it. But, what are there's a give and take there. There are questions raised. This movie doesn't answer any questions. It doesn't pretend to. But it does kind of remind us that those questions have been with us for a long time in one form or another.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is exciting, but I learned something. You talk about the whale oil. Is that there's that great line at the end of the movie, and I probably shouldn't say this, but where the man who had been as a young lad on the Essex, the whaling ship, he said something like, "Well, there's oil coming out of the ground in Pennsylvania. Have you ever, how bizarre?" Or something like some reference to it, and that's when I first got sort of a little. That's when I really understood sort of the importance of the whale oil. We hadn't even gotten to getting the oil out of the ground.
Well, and it's so interesting how, technology, man's, ongoing quest to understand, to control, it's in our nature, right? It's part of the exploration of every kind. And yet all of a sudden there'll be a breakthrough, and, the approach, the methodology applied is suddenly, it's obsolete. And all the effort, the lives committed to that old process, is suddenly it sort of feels like, did we really need to go through all that? And those are the kinds of questions that are sort of interesting to deal with. And I think one of the reasons that I found the story to be so relatable to today in ways that really surprised me. In addition to the fact that it's kind of a big old classic sort of, adventure story as well. So I think it's a combination of things an ambitious movie, and I think audiences deserve ambitious movies.
Oh, I think it is exciting. Sort of hold on to your seat at times in the movie. You just want to hold on, thinking like this could be it. So but in a good way, in an exciting way. But in your research, did they actually drop people down inside the whale to get the oil like that? Yes,
the highest grade of whale oil in a sperm whale, a spermaceti, actually is in the brain, and every drop was literally valuable and meaningful to the voyage. And they would send the smallest guy on the ship down there with a bucket, and it was I don't want to give too much away, but audiences love that particular scene when our cabin boy is exposed to this facet of processing the whale.
All right, when did the movie start? We got the script about when?
Oh, probably about 3 years ago, Warner Brothers agreed to make the movie, and we began a long process of prep. We actually finished shooting almost 2 years ago, and initially we had the movie set to go out in spring, but because once the whale was in place and the movie was finished and we had a terrific score, my partner at Imagine, Brian Grazer, and I, along with Warner Brothers, decided that we should move it to this time of year, because it's a time of year when families go out and see more than one movie over a period of a couple of weeks. And maybe they'll try 2 or 3 or 4 different movies, and we felt like that this would be a great time for the movie to be seen, and seen hopefully on the big screen by as many people as possible. So then they came to Brian and I. There's a picture of us, and Warner said, "Would you think about a 3D conversion?" Well, I'd never worked in 3D. I didn't shoot this movie in 3D, but because we had that 8 or 9 months to work on it, we did, and I'm really thrilled with it. And what I would say to viewers is, if you like the 3D experience, if that's something you look for, our conversion is really good, and I really like people seeing the movie in 3D if they're into it. It was designed as a 2D experience, also seen on IMAX. And so, I think the movie works beautifully that way. But if you're a fan of the 3D, I'd check us out that way. I think it just brings an extra level of detail and immersiveness to the whole experience.
Well, I'll have to watch it that way too. Obviously, I didn't. Okay, now take this one out of the mix, because I don't want to in any way include this one. But what's your favorite project you've ever worked on, not including this one?
Not including this one. It's a tie, if that's okay. Can it be a tie?
Okay. Yeah, I can handle that.
Probably Parenthood, the movie. I'm also one of the exec producers of the TV series, which has also been a lot of fun. But Parenthood, the movie, was a really personal experience for me. A lot of fun, great actors, and it was made at a time when I was right in the middle of raising our young kids. And so there's that one. Apollo 13 was such a journey of discovery, and it was such a feat to actually create the weightlessness. This is before digital technology would have made really any other alternative feasible, and we actually, NASA, thanks to Jim Lovell's involvement, allowed us to go up and film in their plane, which is called the Vomit Comet, because it's a little unsettling to be up there. But we locked our sets down and filmed, and in each parabola we'd have about 23 seconds of weightlessness. So we staged all of our wide shots and our weightless shots in that environment. It was really quite an adventure. So, I've had some great adventures, whether it's the land race scenes in Far and Away, the fires in Backdraft, being around Formula One for Rush, and going to see first for Splash and Cocoon many years ago, and then really going out there into the open ocean for In the Heart of the Sea.
If you had to choose, looking back, only could do one, acting and directing, which one?
Oh, no question, directing. I'm much more suited for being in a leadership position. I love it. I love the creative collaboration, that kind of problem solving, both alone in a room or with a group. It really satisfies me. And also, it does, I'm not a particularly adventuresome person on my own, left to my own devices, but it's pushed me out into the world. I've learned so much. I've traveled so much, worked with people from all over the world, all different sort of cultures and sensibilities. And, I'm really, really grateful for the experience. Still very much enjoying it, and looking ahead to more opportunities in movies and in television.
All right. Well, I just want to tell you, I love In Heart of the Sea, and this is the kind of movie everybody should go to. And it's really sort of like an old-fashioned big screen movie. It's exciting. You can bring your whole family to it. It looks great. It's these special effects or whatever it is. I mean, the storms are fantastic. And so I thank you for that. And I'm also looking forward to The Inferno, which I know you're working on, that's your next project,
That'll
right?
come out next year with Tom Hanks and Felicity Jones. That's the Dan Brown, Robert Langdon mystery. And we had a lot of fun with that. But, In the Heart of the Sea is on my mind right now. And, I'm really thrilled that you liked it. It was a really unique experience.
I thought, it's what a movie should be. I mean, it's an old-fashioned movie. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not horrible violence. It's not anything. It's a great story, and it's great visual, great cast, great everything. It's fun.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
And I expect you'll come back for the next movie, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Ron.
Bye-bye.